recording now. So, So pretty pictures of our last training are going around. There'll be another ICTC training in March. Please tell your friends and relations. I will have dates on that soon, but we're planning for March.
March in Oakland?
Here in Oakland.
Okay. And someone who says their sister is interested in becoming a doula?
Excellent.
See if they can.
Cool. Excellent. So definitely let them know. I'll be going to Portland, I believe, in April to do a Portland training.
Okay.
And we're going to basically have, what it looks like moving forward is that we're going to have a training in Oakland every quarter. And then slowly increase that.
So 4 times a year about?
4 times a year starting. Take my hat off. And then moving forward from there. So I wanted to spend some time going over just some basics of how we work together. Priscilla, I want you to have Kayla's phone number. Can you give Priscilla Kayla's phone number? I spoke to Kayla yesterday. Kayla can never be with us on Mondays because of her work. But she's very excited to work with you, with the client that she has. So she was very happy to know that I was going to pair you two up. So you two should get to talking about that client.
Where is her?
On my notes.
The mobile number at the top.
Yeah. So start to chat with her, and you guys see about going together to visit the client. Do you drive, Priscilla?
Yeah.
Okay, that's our challenge there, but we'll still make it work out.
3, 4, 6. Was it 3, 4, 6? Okay, yeah. Thank you.
So I wanted to take some time to go over our visit schedule. We're going to hopefully have some time to practice doing a little bit of intake skills. I talked about it before, but it's new for Priscilla. And it's something that we need to always revisit and make sure that we're doing well, because I find it incredibly important. The good intake gives us the tools that we need to be able to serve the client really well. It helps us to learn who the client is really quickly, have a good snapshot of her history, and then we know where to put our good doula skills to good use. By the time we're done with the intake, we have that first, just the basic skeleton. Okay, this is my client, this is her life so far, this is what brought her to this pregnancy, and I can start to talk to her about how I can help her have the birth that she wants. But firstly, I want to talk about roles, because my practice and Shiphrah Circle's practice is structured very closely to how midwives traditionally work. And midwives tend to have, there's a senior midwife, and then the assistant midwife, and then there's a third midwife who's usually doing the charting. The midwife who's doing the charting is generally the newest midwife who is kind of learning stuff, so she doesn't have to worry about being totally responsible for everything that's going on, although she might be asked to do certain things. But she's also getting acquainted with how things are going because she's keeping a chart. And she's there, she's in the birth. How we roll is, if you're doing a birth with me, I'm almost always the senior doula. There are times when I'll hand that off because I'm wanting to see a student exhibit first doula skills. Okay, so the first doula is the person who's kind of tracking her client and who pretty much gets to call the shots about what happens. Okay. And based on what's going on with a particular client, and historically, if it's something that I feel that my student hasn't had experience with yet, I'm going to jump in and take over on that, because I'm really greedy and selfish about the good numbers that the practice has. And I think it's also unfair for for you guys who are new and newer to struggle with things that you haven't learned yet. There is a pleasure and a gift to being an apprentice or a student. And it's not about, I see people struggling to recover from like very European-based education, which is you need to get it right or you're wrong. You need to know it already. When you first walk into the class, you should already know everything. And I anticipate that you don't know everything. And I'm cool with that, right? And I know it's my responsibility to help you know certain things. And it's my responsibility as a teacher to see what you do know and to elevate what you do know. So I'm going to come at it from a very positive mindset. This is what I saw you do well, and this is what I would like to see done differently. Okay? The people have so much trauma. I spend half hour with people saying, "Oh, this is what I'd like you to do differently," and they're like, "Oh," people feel like they need to defend themselves, and they were bad, and I'm like, "That's me." She's talking about me. Out of herself. That's good. I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm not about it. I understand. But it's just about how we want to do it. And because it's my responsibility to teach you. So I want folks to really know that and feel that. Like if I didn't feel that you could be a doula, there are people who I say, please don't be a doula. I say that pretty quickly, and I'm not going to drag it out. But especially if you are my apprentice and you're my assistant, then there's somebody I've identified as somebody with superior skills who I would like the great ego satisfaction of helping you be even better. Because I get off on that. I love seeing my students running around doing wonderful things and, impacting the world or going off being beautiful parents. I mean, I take credit. I'm like a parent. Like, look at what my doulas are doing. I want to be proud of everyone. So you don't do that by breaking people's spirits. I don't teach like that. I don't want to be taught like that because I'm still a student myself of midwifery. So, what goes around comes around. So that's real important. So first doula is the person who has like kind of primary responsibility for the client. Of course, the first doula always takes feedback from everybody. We all get together and meet weekly and touch bases about the client, add information, share information. Sometimes one of us has met with the client when the other one wasn't there, and the client said something that might be significant. Oh, like she didn't have food in her refrigerator this week. I went to visit her, and I looked in her refrigerator to get some water, and there was nothing in there. So what do we do? How do we address that? How will we help her? Because that's not okay for a pregnant lady. That sort of thing. Second doula is a support person to the first doula and potential backup person if for some reason the first doula couldn't be at the birth. Basically, first doula and second doula and third doula should all consider themselves a team, and they should all pretty much consider that they are going to be at the birth. The most expendable person is the third doula, but that person still should try to be at the birth. Do you know what I mean? As much as possible, the doula team should attend the prenatals. And there definitely is a time, especially if I'm the first doula, where I'm going to have a couple of units where and you guys could decide that as you're working together, there's a couple of units that I won't be there as first doula because mama tends to really bond with the first doula, and I want to make sure that she has opportunity to bond with everybody else in a different way, but similarly. Okay? So there'll be certain units, like usually I like to say comfort techniques is a fun thing that I say, you guys go do comfort techniques with this client. Go do, now we have, I know Jessalyn already knows EFT, go do EFT with the client. Go meditate with the client. Just go be with her and do this whole unit or teach her, getting ready to do the birth plan, some aspects of the birth plan, going over the video with her about intervention, something like that, where, you get to practice, with me not being there, you get to practice repeating what you've heard me say and what you've read in your books and what you know to be true, like about all the indications of the medications and what they do. And the client gets to bond with you as, okay, you are also someone I can really depend on. I run a lot of big mama energy, and that's good. It helps me be a good doula. And you guys need the opportunity to run your own energy with the client also. Right?
Yeah, I think it was really helpful that I got to see Tunisia just one-on-one the other day. Because she was like comfortable around me, but we hadn't done much chatting. And so we had like a full, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 minutes to just, and we were like doing positions for comfort techniques too. So we were like on the ground and like breathing together and like standing up. So it was like really, I think I left with her feeling like 30-40% more comfortable with me than she had been before. So
Absolutely.
it's a big help to both parties.
Absolutely. You know, and we're going to try to not, I should have said before, we're going to try to not use clients'
Oh, sorry.
names. It's okay, because we're videoing. But, you know, we had clients recently where we were the dream team. Were we not, Christina? We were just amazing. It was like, what, 4 of us?
Yeah.
And say a little bit about what that felt like for you, Christina, to be part of that team.
Well, it was an interesting dynamic. I hadn't been part of such a huge team in a while. Probably since I worked with the Jewish doulas in Imenu.
Yeah.
I mean, where there was like 6 of us in the home birth room. And, you know, I think it has definitely, you know, its perks. I mean, it has like its really nice, you know, it was nice to have, just in terms of physical labor, it was so much helpful. Like, you know, when my back started hurting, somebody else can do a hip squeeze, that sort of thing. I think it also has its downside as well. But I think it would be important to talk about, not to be critical of the situation, but just to, like, learn from and move forward and better ourselves. Because I think there's always room for us to better ourselves. And we are a new team.
Speak
and I
more
think
about that,
that's
Christina.
exciting.
Speak about that, Christina.
Well, like I said, I think we're a new team, and, you know, there's always room for growth. Obviously, there's room for growth because we're new. One of the things that I think was probably one of the, like, downsides was that the roles weren't very clear, and I think it's good that we're talking about the roles and sort of first doula, second doula, third doula. Right. I think it's important to know, like, who's the first doula, who's the second and third, and who's, like, the backup doula. And in that situation, I was technically the backup doula. Right. So it was like I had less responsibility, so to speak, in the team in terms of the clients. But I also would like, maybe if we can speak of, like, in terms of just inexperience in the practice, like, where we stand, like, in terms of experience, because there was a few things there was a few red flags that I did see, and I don't know if maybe we have time to talk about.
This is why we're having the conversation, because I want to go back to that, what we talked about with the clients, and where that bump that you're bringing up is what I want to talk about. So go ahead and talk about it. Just don't use clients' names.
Okay, sure. It's one of those situations where there was concerns I had about the client during some of, like, prenatal, and actually in the probably I think it was, like, the last prenatal visit before the client went into labor. And I would just like to address that concern directly with my Kayla and Jesselyn. I know Kayla's not here, so that's why I'm kind of like, but I think there is that like I had a concern that I brought up with the client that day, and I think there was that feeling of for Jesselyn and Kayla to be like telling the clients, like, oh, it's gonna be okay, everything's gonna be great, and yeah, it's a concern, but everything's gonna be fine, everything's gonna be great. Which I think is you know, one of those situations where, like, that's what you want to tell the client, everything's gonna be fine, everything's gonna be great. But there was one really clear red flags to me that I was really concerned about that I had brought up.
What was that red flag? What was it?
It was her diet, and I struggled really hard to get during that visit, like what her diet was, like tell me exactly what it is, like what did you exactly eat in the last 24 hours, what exactly did you eat the previous day, and once I wrote it all down, I realized, and I told the client, like, there's not enough protein here, and sort of try to, go over the client with her and try to tell her, like, this is not okay for a pregnant woman to not be eating enough protein, and I know it's like the first instance to tell the client, but everything's going to be fine, it's okay, we'll work on this, you've been doing great, this and that. And it actually was a really huge concern for me. Like, I actually texted her the next day and asked her, like, directly, like, are you eating protein? Like, tell me what you ate for breakfast. Because I was very concerned about what this would mean for her labor and for her baby. And it wasn't a bad intention, and I know Jocelyn's married now, maybe she could speak on it. I don't think it was a bad intention in any part. It was just one of those things where it's like, everything's going to be fine, everything's going to be great. Like, yeah, you could do better on that. But, like, for me at that moment, I felt like it was such a huge concern, but I felt like who was, like, technically, like my second doulas in terms of, like, the client, like, they were reassuring the client so much that I didn't want to, like, overemphasize how concerned I was and seem like I wasn't on the same page with my other doula.
Right.
But I felt like it was a situation there where I needed to say, like, hey, I'm the backup doula, but I'm also a more experienced doula here, guys. And if I bring up a concern, I need you guys to be kind of on board because this is really serious and this will really affect your labor in ways that are actually pretty dramatic. And I think, like, we kind of saw that during the birth.
And it did affect the
So
labor
I'm going
very
to just
much.
leave it there because I know people have a ton to talk about. And like I said, we're a new practice, we're a new group. It's exciting to grow, but I do feel like I need to say this directly because, that's just what I feel like. I feel like sometimes in terms of like experience, some people have more experience than others, but we can also have like different responsibilities within a team. And I'll just leave it there.
Yeah, thank you very much, Christina. That's why I definitely am very, very happy that you can be with us this morning, so we could have this. And I kind of put off this conversation until we could be more together. And I'm never going to hold you guys responsible for something I haven't taught you yet. I do recall in the text that I put out for that meeting that I said, in that text I said I wanted Christine to be lead doula. And so, but what lead doula meant was not clearly defined, so we're defining it now, right? And so, Christina has been my apprentice for quite some time, done quite a bit of work with me, and she's on the board of the foundation. And so, it's not like she can't ever be wrong, but her word does have some weight. And when we have to have, although we're all there in a group, there really has to be one clear first voice for the client. And so, and I think one of the challenges with the family that we're talking about is that everyone fell madly in love with them. And so it affected everybody's doulaing of them. And because they're the sweetest things ever walking the planet Earth. But Christine, being new to the party, was not as mystified by them as everybody else, which I think is great, and which is why it's nice to have more than. It's nice to have that new person walking in kind of at the end of it, kind of looking around going, wait, the emperor doesn't have clothes on. And Christine was the person who looked at her meal plan and went, there's really not enough protein here. And I missed dinner. That night was when they served. If I was there, I think I would have had the same red flag too. Me being a low carb person and being given a bowl that's mostly carbs with little pieces of meat in it by a pregnant person. I'm like, no, are you eating like this every day? I mean, what's going on? So anyway, go ahead.
Also, Princess, can I just add real quickly that I want to take responsibility also for the fact that I also didn't bring it up as much during that birth, or I didn't speak to my other doulas aside afterwards. I think that was, for me, just like a lack of just wanting to take the reins and take more of a leadership role, because it had been my first birth in almost a year.
Right.
And I'm just kind of been out of it. And that really was a place where I needed to really like step up and be like, hey guys, team, this and this and that. And I just kind of like went with the flow of everyone because I hadn't been to a birth in a while, but that I also take responsibility for that as well.
I appreciate you doing that very much. It's true. I mean, I placed you as first doula because I have that confidence in you, and for you to have, we ought not be as birth workers and as women ego-driven about this stuff. That shouldn't have no place in what we do. And if someone's first doula, then we defer to the first doula. And if there was a disagreement after you met with the clients, go have coffee, talk it through. That's what we do.
Yeah, I want to apologize if I did give you any pushback, because I definitely didn't mean to, but I do remember like everything that you're talking about. And I think that was a big part of it, is that we hadn't really been doing debriefings after prenatals, and Samsarah had been at all the other prenatals.
Right.
So I think part of it is throughout the team's experience with the client, having even just a 5-minute debrief after the meeting between first, second, and possibly third is important, because in all the meetings except for that one, I hadn't even really gotten to see her food, because there'd be 2 or 3 of us at the meeting, and you would look at the food, and then I might not even get to check it.
Right.
And if you were saying something was okay, or if Christina was saying something was okay or not okay, like we were kind of just going with the first doula, which is a good part of the roles. Right. But if we're not all actually seeing the food diary and understanding what that means, and if we're not debriefing after the meeting, because up until that meeting with us without you, like I thought her food was okay, because I was sitting 2 people down from the food list, and like we were going over it, and like you said, it looked okay on paper, but then when you actually see what the actual meal is as far as ratios, it wasn't that great. So we didn't pick up. But
one of the things, I'm sorry, did you want to?
I just wanted to apologize if I pushed back at you, Christina, and I was kind of in the role of like, okay, like I didn't know that her food was a problem. Like suddenly it seems like a problem, and I don't want her to feel like she's doing something totally wrong because she seemed to be okay before. And so like if I pushed back, I apologize for that.
Oh, no, totally fine. Yeah, like I said, I'm glad we're talking about it, and it seems like a small detail, but in the long run, I feel like that small detail is actually, like, we all could have done better as a team. I could have done better. I could have emphasized it better. And I do remember that I called Samsarah the next day, but she was at a lunch or dinner, so I think I only had time to speak with her about the birth plan, and I was going to talk to her about the diet as well. And then after, that I didn't get a chance to, and then I kind of dropped the ball and never told Samsarah about it, because I don't know, I don't think there was a whole lot of time between that last meeting and she went to labor.
No, it was like the next day.
The doctor stripped her membranes, and that was it.
Really.
Yeah, it was like the next day. But yeah, I think it's also, like you said, in a new meeting, like I've only seen you face to face like 2 or 3 times. Right. So getting to read your level of concern about something, whereas I'm used to catching Samsarah's eye and like paying attention to her face and her tone of voice and what she's looking at, I haven't had that much practice with you. So it's also like getting to know your first doula and getting to know your second doula. And it's like we have that private communication with the client in the hospital, but it's like we need that private communication between the doulas too. And that just takes practice.
Yeah, I mean, it's like when we went to the hospital and we were talking, the family and I had made a decision about what we were going to say to the hospital staff. First doula talks to the hospital staff.
Yeah, which I wasn't good at.
Only one person does that, because we may not have time to have a meeting of 4 people before we head off to the hospital. So there was a decision made, I won't get into that, and what we were going to present to hospital staff. And then the question was asked, and then someone else answered differently. And that's one of the things that I do believe they held against the birth team. The nurse made note of that. Okay? So there were several things with that client. She had spiked, her blood pressure had spiked when we first got in there for her birth. That exchange went down, which I saw the nurse take note of that. And then the baby had a couple of pretty major decels. And so the 1, 2, 3, they were out. and they were very aggressive when it was time for pushing and getting that baby out. So they might have done that anyway, but I get upset when we anyway help them do that. Also, tracking mom's diet better, was that the beginning of preeclampsia? Because that can happen in the labor. That can happen suddenly. And her baby was hella small. That baby needed to have been, she could have had an 8-pound baby. Okay? I was concerned about her diet. But I would have been more concerned after having dinner with them, because I have already spoken to them a couple times before that dinner happened, right? But Justin's point is incredibly well taken, is that we have not been having debriefs after they were late clients, and we have not had the team is still forming. So I think it is very important that after prenatals that we have time to debrief, if not right after, because sometimes we're going from
I was in South San Francisco, and it'd be like 9:30 by the time we got out, so it was like tough to do a debrief.
Yeah, maybe we'll try to do them Mondays here at the Circle when we're doing a lot of prenatals, and have opportunity, even on text, to be like, hey, I'm concerned about this or that. We're all in the text Circle group, and we can do that, or on the Facebook group,
chat or something.
On the Facebook group or Google Chat or some way. We need to be able to share, and that's because I'm the first doula. Another doula could be feeling something that I'm missing. I'm not that ego-driven to think that I'm the only one who knows everything. So we want to make room for everybody's voice, because we're all vibing on different aspects of this client, of our client.
That's the benefit too of the group, because like one doula, ideally I do want to catch everything going on with the couple and at what's in their kitchen, and I want to catch it all by myself. But it's like you can't catch everything. So having the team is cool, because maybe you're talking to the mom about something really intense about the emotional aspect of her food, and maybe I'm catching dad's reaction to that, and I can say later, like, hey, he seemed really protective about this aspect.
Okay.
Maybe we should talk to him about this aspect. And
I'm sitting in the living room with the family talking about something, and one of you goes into the kitchen and to make tea and realizes, open the refrigerator, it's an empty refrigerator, but they just put all this food on their food journal.
Yeah.
Because clients will fib. Clients will straight up fib.
Even the sweet, honest ones will fib without even realizing it. They'll subconsciously fib.
It's like, okay, so we have to just kind of take a look, and not to shame or blame the clients too, but if they're needing help, people do have food aversions. People do have, clients do want to do things to please the doula. So they'll sit down and write the fantasy food list. They sure will do it. That's why some people don't even ask them their food. I refuse to do that. I think that that's something that we want to talk about and kind of confront in a healthy way and work through. But some people are like, I won't even ask them. I won't even have I think that is not helping the client step up into their responsibility for their pregnant bodies and their parenting life. So I'm going to ask them. But if the client is consistently, I'll be right. Let me finish this thought, Boo. If the client is consistently showing problems that food will fix, but she's swearing to me that she's eating, that I'm kind of like, Mama, what's up? I've had clients burst into tears and admit that they don't eat at all, and we'll go to the supermarket and I'll buy her a hamburger, and we'll weep it out. What's going on? What are you afraid of? Are you afraid to gain weight, or what's going on? Let me help you. I care about you, and I don't want you to be hurt. You say you want a natural childbirth, and I see you going right as opposed to left. I mean, how can I help you? I love you. It could be. I've experienced it to be a bonding with my client. My clients have always appreciated when I catch them doing their stuff. They totally appreciate it, even though like my teen clients will be mad at me in the moment, and they'll wrinkle their little noses. They're like, you're too nosy, Samsarah. My little black girls tell me that all the time. You're too nosy. But then they do everything I ask them to do. So please, they appreciate that. A good mama should be nosy. Just a good mama should not be abusive. If we're going to do this mothering the mother thing, let's be good moms. Right? What were you going to say, Christina?
Well, I was just going to make 2 points before I forget. The first point that popped into my head that I don't want to forget is that for me personally, even if, we give the client all the information, and even if we have a lot of information about the client, for example, like let's say dietary, they may not want to change their diet.
Right.
That may not be what they want to do.
Right.
But however, it does give me a better picture of how the labor is going to go.
Exactly.
And it helps me to see like what's happening, what expectations are there, so that I'm not like held surprised when suddenly like they have an early rupture of membranes or something like that. It helps me to form a picture, and then a lot of things form a picture, and that's So even if the client doesn't want to change their diet, I think it's important for us. No, I think it's important for me to feel like, hey, I informed the client. The client already knows,
Right.
That they didn't want to do anything about it. That's on them, but at least I gave them a heads up.
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
And the second point I wanted to make also, in terms of just like not having worked with me a lot, I know like folks I know Samsarah's worked with me a lot, worked with Samsarah a lot.
Yes.
But for the longest of time, this little practice has been like super big on diet.
Yes, we are.
Super big on diet, and like that, the more I think that you guys get to know me that haven't already known me more, it's like that's like the biggest, like that's like the foundation of it all, diet. And it was so important back in the days, back in the days, Samsarah, that we actually used to have a nutritionist.
Yeah.
No longer with us. And who would meet with the client separately. She would go. Sometimes, if I wanted to tag along, I'd go to, like a nutritionist who, worked with the client and then worked with us, and just like that's how important it was, because it's so hard to catch everything. Like, we're not nutritionists. We could try our best. But that's how important it is, like the whole like dietary concern. And I really am sad that like she's no longer with us.
Yeah, she's in New York. She will be. She'll be doing a nutrition training, Christina.
Yeah.
She's going to be doing a nutrition training for the doulas in January, long distance. So she'll be Skyping in and doing that training. And that'll be very helpful. I'm a certified nutrition coach, but she's also a certified nutrition educator. And because it's the thing that will make or break, to a large degree, the woman being able to have this natural birth that she says she wants. Because you have to walk into the hospital perfect health, and this little narrow path that the doctors consider healthy, you've got to stay in that little path while you're in the hospital for them to allow you to have your birth as naturally as possible and not feel that they have to intervene. If you stray any way out of that little path of normal, midwives have a much bigger freeway of normal that a woman can bounce around in, and the midwife can work with her and roll with her. But when you're going to have a hospital birth, the lane is that big, and you got to stay in there. So you've got to be in super good health. You've got to be exercised. You don't have to be like a track star, but good health. You can't spike a temperature. You can't spike your blood pressure. That happens once, and you're already in a category that you can't get out of. You stay there. And then everything else that happens in your labor gets added on to that until they feel like they have to do the biggest intervention on you, which is a C-section. So to honor their mindset, our job is to honor their mindset. They're not 100% wrong, because if a woman is not healthy, we need to be concerned, right? So my role is to bring the healthiest client that I can up into the hospital to give her a fighting chance if she says she wants a natural birth. And food is our first medicine. And the mom could go to all of her prenatals and they'll say that she's anemic, but I'm not seeing that they really explain what that means. And it's not just taking an iron pill that's going to make that go away. It's exercise, and us as women, we have to talk about our health before we even get pregnant, but that's for another day. Because we enter our pregnancies sick, and so our pregnancies make us sicker. because as the demands of a baby growing inside of us increase, our bodies who are already not in balance get driven more and more out of balance as the pregnancy proceeds. And that's why the hospital staff is so crazy. When it's time to push, they're like this, because that's when it's going to hit the fan. That's when if something's happening, that's when it's going to hit the fan, when it's time to push the baby out and the baby's head is being compressed with those contractions. So, you know, it's important for us to, and we had a lot of grief around this birth and how it was handled, but it's also very important for us to see how, if I was a medical person, their interventions were not wrong. Their concerns were not totally invalid. You know, and that's why sometimes hospitals just are done with doulas, because like, don't you guys get what's going on with these people? And we should. I think they're right about that. I also think that sometimes they go overboard. Most of the time they go overboard. I also think that their line of what's normal is too small, so most women fall out of it in some way.
And they tend to exacerbate some of the issues.
And their interventions cause what they fear, exactly. But, you know, looking at it from their point of view, yeah. I've seen nurses put their careers on the line because she felt really solid that my client was gold. Like, she was like, I've had nurses block the door and not let the doctor come in. You know, I won't mention the hospital because I don't want anyone to get in trouble. But she was like, this client is doing good in there, doc. They don't need you to come in. Until it was time to really push the baby out. You know, but a nurse, and that's of course is a senior nurse who's seen it all and is super competent. Everybody else, I'm not going to risk my career for you and your trifling client. Really, why should she or he? You know. So I want to have the client be in a situation where people can bring their best selves, where doctors can be a little bit fearless, because this mom is totally cooking. She's been in a good shape since she's been in there. Another good reason for moms to not be in the hospital too long. You know, because every time the monitor slips off the mom, every time they can't track the heart rate and all this stuff, they're creating a document that shows all of these fits and starts, and they have to document why all these fits and starts are. The longer the mom is in the hospital, the longer they have a time for her to have some kind of blip that makes everybody nervous. You want to say something?
For food stuff, like how often do you do like a grocery shop or say like let's cook a meal together? Like how often do you take the food
It depends on the client. Like with my teen moms, we were doing it all the time. We were having cooking lessons for them. Yeah. For our very young moms, because it dawned on me, they just don't know how to cook. They want to eat well, yeah. So they're eating McDonald's because they didn't have mamas. These young ladies were aging out of foster care, so they didn't have mamas and grandmas to cook for them. And so we would having things where they would come to my office on Wednesdays, and I cook up a big lunch, and the moms would all eat, and we had the Mama Q. Remember Mama Q?
Yeah.
That was fun. I want to do that next year, where we had all the clients over, and I cooked barbecue for them, and we talked. They hung out in my backyard, and all the stuff that I do with my mom has always involved food. I'm always feeding them. I remember I'm not going to mention her name, but she was always like, Samsarah, can you cook me up this or that? And I had no problem with that. I just loved that. Because especially those very young mamas who didn't get any mommying, they really needed that. You know, this one little client I'm thinking of would come and curl up on my couch in my office. And, you know, she would eat better with me. So I would do my work and she'd come eat with me. I mean, that's how deep we went, clients, you know. And that's why, you know, it went well, you know, it went along with Mama Shafia's teachings about what granny midwives do. And you know that granny midwives would go cook up a batch of greens and bring it to some poor mama's house who couldn't cook for herself, you know. So, yeah, it depends on the client. So there are clients who are more, and then there's very affluent clients who need the same amount of monitoring. They have no, I walked into big palatial Walnut Creek houses with no food in the refrigerator. There's a squeak behind you, Christina. What's the background noise?
I'm sorry?
There's some background noise behind you that's really loud.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's gone
It
now.
was like a key jangle or something.
Is it a keychain or an earring or something that's jingling?
I'm not sure what it is.
No worries. It seems... How weird. You don't hear it?
No?
It's like a high pitched,
No.
jingling or like clanging.
I don't hear anything.
It stopped again.
It stopped. It's so weird. Anyway, so do we feel at this point that we have a better understanding of what the roles are?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
So we want to bear that in mind. If I ask you to take over a client for me and I say Christine is the first doula, the way it looks now, right now in the core group, at least here, is that if I'm in the room, I'm first doula, unless I've said otherwise. Christina would be the second most experienced doula in the group, and then it would be Jessalyn, then it would be Kayla, and then it would be you, our newbie. So that is how it is at this point. Now with Kayla, and oh my goodness, that noise is bothering me. With your client, with Kayla is first doula on that client, and you are her second. Okay. And so I would like to see, we could talk about this later. I would love to have Jessalyn be backup and support to both of you. So what that looks like is that Kayla's running the conversations. You are chiming in as you feel comfortable. The weight is not on you because you're new and everybody knows that, but you're observing and helping. And Jessalyn's going to show up from time to time to kind of watch how everybody's doing, because Jessalyn's in the process of being trained to be a first doula, you know? Mm-hmm. And Jessalyn's on the educator track. So eventually she's going to be like training y'all doulas. So she's going to be reporting back to me how y'all did. And she's going to be helping you because she has more than enough experience to do that. Okay? And when she doesn't, I'll help her. All right. So for each birth, as we go on, it's going to be my call how I feel people are comfortable and ready to either. I'm always challenging, so I'm getting to know you right now, Priscilla. But with my other folks, I'm like, I have a good feel for Kayla. I have a good feel, I believe, for Jessalyn. For sure, have a good feel for Christina. And there'll be things that I'll ask you to do because I know you can do it, and because I want to challenge you to do more. My goal is to have you guys be a better doulas than me, and I'm phenomenal.
She is, though.
Thank you.
I mean, I think having, 37 years of experience without someone trying to say that you shouldn't be having 37 years of experience is a pretty good record. And all your clients love you.
They do.
That's the best measure.
That is the best, most sweetest compliment in the world. I love when we had the panels at the training and the parents were talking about they're working with us and how they love us. They love their doulas, and we want to be worthy always of their trust, like always. And we're part of this beautiful moment in their lives. We're in their family albums. It's such an honor. So we never want to besmirch that.
I'm going to a first birthday in a week or two for one of my old clients.
Aww, yay!
Yeah.
That is so sweet. I love that. I was like, I'm going to birthdays and bar mitzvahs and first communions.
I've got 2 1-year-olds so far. The other ones I don't know, but the hard thing with the volunteer hospital births is like you never see the client again. But
That's the thing too.
But my other clients are inviting me to their parties. So nice.
It's so sweet. And they're so proud of their doula. This is my doula.
Yeah. And that's also, I think, why it's good to work in a group, because I want my clients' trust in me to be well-founded, and I do think I'm a good educator and doula provider, but like I'm better because of you, and I'm better because of working with Christina, and I'm better because I get to chat with Kayla afterwards and go to our community ed things. And like they can trust me more because when I don't know something, I have somebody to ask, and it's not just a textbook.
And that's the frightening thing for people who go off and take their doula trainings and they're off there alone. And they don't know. I mean, I that was very painful for me when I was away, little baby doula. And there's a lot of things that, I mean, I had books and there are other things, but I think that human beings have always done birth in community, and we've always learned from each other. We've always had respect for our elders, and we're always teaching down the line, so that every little girl in the village knew something about having babies, and whether she was a midwife or not. People knew when things were going well, and people knew when things were not.
I think that's why I sought you out, because I was doing volunteer work solo, and I was just like, this is not enough. Like, I had the textbook knowledge that I had read, but it just like wasn't. I had decent like rapport with my clients. I had the information, but I was like, I'm not getting this to them the way I need to, and that's why I reached out for help, because like. It's really hard to do by yourself.
Yeah, it is. I don't think it was ever designed for humans to do birth work on their own, but I'm glad. It makes me a better doula also, because I'm always teaching what I know. And it's one thing to know it, it's another thing to teach it.
Yeah.
And I think that teaching it is that final layer, like it cements into yourselves. If you can teach what you know, you really know it. And that's why I'll be always giving all of you guys the opportunity to teach what you know. You'll be teaching the clients. You come to childbirth ed, you get to teach there. That's why after a year of working with me, you get childbirth educator certification, because you've been doing it. You didn't just read about how to be a childbirth educator. You've been physically teaching real human beings. And I think that that's incredibly valuable. So I want to go over our visit schedule. Christina already knows this, but we'll go over it all together as a group. And this is basically how we're going to run things with clients. It might be little bits of changes. We want to try, my goal is to have 10 visits with the client before she's in labor, minimum. If we can do more, that's great. There's never too many visits. As much as you can get in there and hang out with the client and her partner, meet her family members. For sure you want to know all the people who are coming to the birth. We want to identify Cousin Ray Ray. I talked to you guys about Cousin Ray Ray. There's the person who should not be at the birth. Everybody loves Cousin Ray Ray, but he's the person, or she's, sometimes Cousin Ray Ray is female, who just shouldn't be there. The person who's going to be unproductive, unhelpful, and maybe we want to have that person have another important thing to do to help the family, but not be up in the birth room. And it's not for us really to banish Cousin Ray Ray, but it's to kind of talk to the client and see what she wants to do about Cousin Ray Ray. And if Cousin Ray Ray still gets to be there, we know at least, you're Cousin Ray Ray. And we're going to work around that person with love and light and try to help them be helpful. Because sometimes people just want their Cousin Ray Ray. This visit schedule is for the work that we're going to do in Shiphrah Circle. It's also like when we're seeing private clients. And so my job is to train you, of course, to work with me in the practice, but also, if you have clients on your own, that's perfectly fine. You definitely get the support of the practice in that. If you bring a practice into the client, then you get to split the fee with the practice and have all the help of your sister doulas in your birth. What happened here? Talk more about that anyway. But it's broken down by visit. So we're starting with, say, you're sent off to a client interview. So the very first thing you're going to do, is have some kind of contact with the client. The client will call you or email you. They saw your website, or they were referred to you by me. You're going to complete the client contact sheet, which I will provide you. I don't think I have one in the stack. I'll bring one next week. It basically has the client's name, the partner's name, the address, the due date, where they're having the basic information, where are they having their babies, the first or second baby, this basic stuff that you have all that information. You want to get all that information. You want to get the client's email. Even if you end up not working with them, you as a business person are starting to build your email list. So you want that data. There'll be other things and workshops that are or activities that you or the practice are doing in the future, and you would want to invite that person. Sometimes you don't do a first baby, but you end up doing a second baby. So, keep in contact with your client's a good idea.
And that's when you schedule the interview.
Then you schedule the interview. There's a little video called Special Woman that I love to show, and I will make sure everybody has a copy of it. It's a little 15 minutes. It's quick and dirty. This is a doula. This is what doulas do. That's usually very helpful for partners and family members, because the woman might feel really confident that she wants a doula, and the husband's kind of like, I don't know, why do we need this extra person? And the video kind of helps make things clear for him. For our teen moms, it was to actually educate them, because they were being referred by social services to us, and they didn't really actually know, especially in the beginning, they didn't know what a doula was either. So we're educating them. They were like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, okay, do you want me to keep coming? Like, yeah, that sounds great. So it's basically 15 minutes, so you don't have to explain it. It's a lot. You will provide references and info, and I suggest that everybody create like their little birth resume with a pretty picture of themselves on it. I need a copy of it. You should, email it to me. It's your name, your business phone, if you have a separate line for your business, your cell phone. If you already have a website, if you don't have a website, don't worry about it, because you're just starting out. But just contact information on you, your training, the fact that you took ICTC training, any references that you personally have, like any child work with kids that you've done, babysat, any specific training that you have that's helpful to your doula life. Of course, if you have like degrees and other things, it's nice to put those on there, but a basic kind of one-page thing. If you have references about your work as a teacher, educator, any kind of birth work, put it there, because it's nice for clients to be able to contact folks who've worked with you in the past. Get permission from those people before you give their phone numbers out, that it's okay with them, that their name and information is on your list, right? So as soon as you can, your homework is to create that little doula resume and send a copy of it to me on my email, Samsarah Morgan @gmail.com. And when you're out working with me, you'll see that I have my pretty purple folder with all my information for my clients, and I'll have your sheet included with the information about me, so that the client knows about the team. Okay. 24 hours after an interview, the first doula should send a thank you card to the family after you meet with them. So whoever the first doula is, and generally, I would say the first doula would do that first interview visit and talk about how we work with it as a team, and that the contract even says, my contract says, it's me and my associates, so that they have an understanding that there's more than one doula. I wouldn't descend on them as a tribe right away. I kind of ease into that. When they fall in love with us, it becomes easier and easier. So the first doula does that first contact, usually talking about herself, talking about the practice and how the practice works. Then that first doula has a responsibility to go get a card. If money's an issue, I have stacks of beautiful cards that I could give you to say, thank you for meeting with me. I really appreciated your time. Look forward to hearing from you. Love you.
I could definitely use some of those cards.
Yeah, I will give them to you. They're very pretty. We have an artist that donated her image on a very pretty card for our use. So it's quite nice. Yeah, it's very nice. Beautiful image. So always do that, because that helps you to stand apart from all the other doulas who are interviewing with that same client. Mamas, pregnant ladies have, really short-term memory. So if they're seeing a whole bunch of doulas, they tend to hire like the last doula they saw. And your card reminds them about you. Right? So you have your card, from the pretty card written from you with your little business card in there. Then they go, oh, I'm so glad you sent me the card. I hear this all the time. Oh my gosh, I'm thank you for sending me the card. It reminded me about how cool you were. I really want to talk to you again. So we want to do that. After you're hired, after they call you back and say, you know what, I spoke to my husband and he really loves you. I talked to my partner. She thinks you're the bomb. We want to get started. Christina's laughing. After they say that, we thank them for hiring us. We will be gracious at all times because it's a big deal. People work hard, and they're going to spend money. Maybe not it's your very brand new doula, but eventually, as soon as I can have that happen, for people to make money for births, and you want to be gracious and thank them for giving their hard-earned money to you. That first meeting is about them officially hiring you, so they've read the contract. You go over the contract with them, ask them if they have any questions. You receive their deposit or their full payment, however they're going to do that. And then we do the medical history form, which is in Elizabeth Davis's Hearts and Hands. It's the form that we use. We go over that with them. I will give that to you in a minute. And then we do our first 24-hour diet review. We don't get into any of all of that until we have a signed contract and money's been changed hands, because then officially they're your client. Then you have a responsibility to them and they have a responsibility to listen to you too. So then we go into the medical history. We ask the mama to write down for me, please, everything you've eaten in the past 24 hours. And they always giggle, and there's always a story, and it was like, this is not the best day.
What wasn't the best day?
Every day is not the best day, mija, but it's okay, because it starts to get better, because they know you're going to ask, and they do try, most clients do try really hard. Here's an intake. There is a childbirth prep book that I give to clients if they are not coming to childbirth ed class. We want to recommend for all of our clients to come to the Tuesday night class. And that is considered for them, if they're already our clients, that's an extra benefit for them. They don't have to pay any more for it. They can just come because they're already our client. And that kind of helps you when you are going to do a review of childbirth ed with them, but you're not teaching it to them for the first time. So it's kind of a stereophonic thing happening with their getting this information, working with you, meeting with the other moms at childbirth ed, forming community there. I'm really trying to help these moms have a couple of layers of data coming in at them. They also get to work with me if we get to the point where, you guys are first doulas on your clients, they get to have some contact with me and give me the opportunity to give you feedback based on my checking out your client. So the rest are, it's not necessary to really follow exactly step by step. If you do that because you're new and it makes you feel comfortable, that's great. But what's important is to see that you have talked about all of these things with your clients before they go into labor. That's why I do want to try to meet them. I love meeting them like in their second trimester forward, and have plenty of time to go over all of these things and form a really good bond with them and have them really prepared and ready to go when labor starts. If it's at all possible, the thing that we haven't been doing in the past few families is we haven't been having really the birth team meeting. And I really want us to get back to doing that. Birth team meeting, I have written here as the 6th meeting, but somewhere around 37 weeks, we want 37, 38 weeks, we want to have a meeting with everybody the client is going to have in the birth room with her. All of our family members. That's when we identify who the Ray Ray is. We want to have times for time for grandmothers to process their birth story. One of the most important things is, for me, when someone's having their mom at the birth, I want to have that grandma have the opportunity to share her birth story, and want to ferret out if there's any trauma for the grandma, and have her to be able to tell her story and get some support. Because very often it's the grandma who's the Ray Ray.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that is the case for our recent meeting?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm not gonna say names.
Yeah, don't. Yeah, she's a Ray Ray. Yeah.
Because we had a very wide-eyed grandma at a meeting recently.
Yeah, we're going to be doing a home birth soon with Laura, and the client there is adorable, and she has a very sweet mama who's a social worker and doing her best, but she's kind of like, So it's okay, and the mom gets to do that. So your daughter and your first grandchild, and I was a complete idiot when my first grandchild was born, so I'm not talking about anybody. I'm really not. One of these days, I'll tell the story again. I think the first crew has heard it a few times now. So, so we just want to be able to have the grandma who's there, or family members who are there, who want to support their loved one. We want to give them the tools. So there's a particular birth that I love to show where the mom is an outdoor water birth, and this mom is incredibly vocal. She makes a lot of noise. Mm-hmm. She's a sound therapist and a physical therapist, and she's birthing outside in the tub. And it's a beautiful, natural birth, but she is hecka loud. And I play it, and the family all starts twitching. And it's great. Because I've seen some people say, you know what, I don't think I can be at the birth. And it's great if Ray Ray will self-select. That's kind of cool. If Ray Ray will say, you know what, that was beautiful, no, but I don't know.
Not my thing.
It's, I think I'm going to clean the house for you or something else. Maybe cook you some ribs and some grits. I mean, go, Ray Ray, go cook that stuff. But then, people get to talk about the birth. Grandma gets to go, boy, I wish I could have had a birth like that. That she really was a beautiful birth. But it's like, and it's Elizabeth Noble's birth. If you know Elizabeth Noble's wonderful elder birth worker now, but we get to watch the birth of her second child in this video. And it's outdoors and beautiful in her home in Massachusetts, and she's in the hot tub. She birthed her baby in the hot tub, but she makes great big, it's beautiful sounds, and that is a good way to just see how people roll with birth energy. I loved it. People get interested. The dads are kind of like, what's all that about?
Well, and I think it does trigger that for people because if you've never been around it, it's kind of like walking in on someone having sex at the same time that somebody else is pooping in the same room, and you're just like, what's going on? There's just a lot. And people don't know.
It's a lot of humanity.
Yeah, a lot of humanity.
I get that. Yeah, I don't know about the pooping part. But
I just mean it's like both bathroom and sexuality essences going on in some ways. And
I know where she's going. I'll leave it like that. But yes, it's deep intimacy, yes, and deep bodily function. Yeah, I feel it. Yes, dear.
Is talking about the whole cousin Ray Ray situation, has there ever been a situation where the husband or the partner is that person?
Oh, yeah.
And so then how do you do it?
Well, with that's a very good question. What do you do when the husband or the partner is his cousin Ray Ray? Well, very often what I know about what my experience with gentlemen is when the partner is that person, it's because he's scared. And so what I would do is try to have private time with that person because the partner most likely wants to be there and his female partner wants him, the female partner wants the partner there. So that person can't be excluded. So we want to take that person to the side and say, or the grandma, I want my mom there. I know she's having a hard time, but I want my mom there. So to have a private meeting with that parent or with that partner and say, look, how are you feeling? And I'm wondering if you're a little nervous about the birth process. Are you afraid for your partner? Are you afraid for your daughter? Let them talk it out with you. And very often, just doing that, you see their behavior start to shift. Yeah, Ray Ray can stop being Ray Ray. Ray Ray can get on board. But it's good to know who that person might be. I think to a certain degree, most partners are kinda in that place because they don't have a baby growing inside of them. They're not being prepared by a labor. And the number one fear, I've done so many studies on this, the number one fear of men for their female partners in childbirth is that she's going to die. They're terrified. They're standing there trying to be brave, but they're scared in their heads about that. They love their mate. They love the baby too, but in a very amorphous way. Mm-hmm. You know, the mama has this deep thing going on between her and her baby. She's generally subconsciously prepared to die for her baby. The husband's not prepared to lose his partner, nor should he be. You know, our job is to help him to feel secure that we're giving, and we can't guarantee that no one's going to die. You can do perfect everything and still die. If it's your time, it's your time. Okay, that's in God's hands. But the odds are very small. The odds should be super small that a healthy lady would die in childbirth. Like in other countries where they have almost no infant mortality, healthy ladies having babies, everybody should be rosy at the end of it, taking pictures, planning college funds. That's how it should be, right? So we get to help that fearful partner, male, female, whatever. If someone's acting like that, I look at it, that's a cry for love and healing. What's affecting that person? What's making them have a hard time being present for the birth process? And in this culture, we're all taught to be afraid of birth. So, you know, we all need love and we all need support. And I've seen grandmas who are able to be there for their daughters heal their own birth trauma. You heal your own birth trauma by doing it over healthy and positive for someone else. She's just to really give to her daughter what was not given to her, you know. And people rise to the occasion.
I don't remember I can't remember now if it was someone we saw together or if it was a story where recently a father divulged afterwards that his aunt or mother had passed away in that same hospital. I can't even recall who it was. Doesn't matter who it was at this moment. But yeah,
there's so
people,
much going on.
that didn't even come out till afterwards. They were like, "Oh, well, I was nervous because this is the hospital where so and so passed away." And it was like, "Oh, that is a big trigger for you."
It's a huge trigger. That's why I really try to not be judgmental, and I use the cousin Ray Ray thing because that's something that happened in the past, and I say that with tremendous love for that person. There's something happening. You know, why some people become cops and firemen, like the stereotypical profile of a young man who becomes a policeman is a person who maybe has seen a lot of abuse and wants to be a hero, wants to help people, wants to make things better for people, wants to keep people safe, you know, and how that desire can get corrupted in patriarchy is really sad. But that desire to go off and be a soldier, stand up for your country, all of these things that are noble, they have to not be fueled by the person's fear of terrible things that have happened in the past. That's not the way to be the best hero, right? So there's that. So for the sake of time, I'm going to have us, everybody take a look at and get acquainted with the visit schedule. And everybody is on call now to know that this is what we're going to be. Every time you're at a birth, everyone in the birth team has to write a birth narrative. Everybody in the birth team should try to attend as many prenatals as possible with the family, get to know this family. The birth narrative is a short, sweet, relatively short, very, very sweet little story of the birth. Sometimes we write it, it's up to you how you do it. Sometimes I write the birth narrative to the mama. Sometimes I write it to the couple. Sometimes I write it to the baby. And basically it's like, you know, What a beautiful day it was, how the birds sang and chirped when we came to help your mom have you, and all the beautiful memories of the birth that we want to share and enforce and remember. And, you know, if we're writing to the baby how brave your mama was and how lovely your daddy was, and, you know, she worked how many hours, and you were born, and we were all so ecstatic. Thank you for letting me be your doula. I love you. You know, something sweet and nice like that they're going to keep forever. We will be talking about taking notes, which is a totally different thing. Your notes you don't really give to your client, but be aware that legally your client has a right to ask for your notes and ask for your entire doula chart. Your doula chart has to be kept stored away. Your doula baby client has the right to come back to you and ask for your chart, which I had happen to me a few years ago. I had one of my earliest clients, her mama had passed away, and she was going through all the paperwork, and she had found out that I was a doula, and she asked for her chart.
From her birth?
Fortunate from her birth.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah. So I got to meet this young lady who is now 21, and I got to grieve with her because her mama had passed, and I got to give her all of the copies of everything in my file that I had to share with this young lady, and pictures of her birth and her mother, some pictures that I had her mother didn't have. So it was really sweet.
Do you tend to take your notes, like right now, I've only had like 11 or 12 clients, so I have like a section that is just client notes and a section that is trainings.
Good.
But do you tend to like digitize, like you type it up in a file, or you just like make a copy and put it with their folder?
I have a separate sheet that every time I meet with a client, I make notes on the sheet and I stick it in their file.
Okay.
So it's dated, and we'll be talking about charting. So I'll share with you how I do it. And then at the end of the day, if you want to digitize it and keep everything like on a file on your computer somewhere where the public can't get it to it, it needs to be encrypted because that's people's private information. Well, that's fine. And you need to hold on to it, you know, I believe it's like a decade you want to hold on to it, but I've had stuff, I keep stuff longer. I just, you know, I'm really happy that even on 2 or 3 moves that I've made, I still had that box with client files available for this particular client. It was very sweet. I mean, we are holding on to people's life stories. You know, so we want to have it in a place where people can find it. Who knows? Somebody could be trying to write a biography on your client years from now, and you give them important information that they're looking for. Okay, so we're going to come back to this. We are at 11:35, so I'm going to stop. Please take a look at the doula visit schedule. Be acquainted with it. You have a health history form. I'm going to give you a couple of them. Your homework is to get hold of a friend and family member and do an intake on them, and we'll talk about it next week. We're always going to come back to this particular skill because it is really, I really just find it so incredibly important. So get a hold of a friend and family member and do their intake. And then we'll talk about that next week. Christina, is anything you want to add, boo?
No.
Okay.
That was a lot.
So you are getting ready to go back to midwifery school. Praise the Lord. So we're going to support you. We're going to support you in that. And things are pretty much the same. You're still available for like clerical stuff, but and if we have a client out by your way, being a backup, that kind of thing, right?
We'll work it out, but yeah, definitely. I'm still involved. I'm still here, not leaving.
Yeah. Yay. All right. So you have
and next Monday, I'll be there for class physically in person.
Yay! Christina will be physically in person next week.
And let me know how much I owe you for rebosos.
Oh, sure, and I'll be bringing them too, so, next week, I'll be there.
Looking forward to Rebosos and Christina. You have a good week, girl.
Okay, thank you. You guys have a nice week too.
Bye-bye, honey.
Bye. Bye-bye.
And so everybody out there in YouTube land, have a great doula week, and we'll see you again soon. Yeah, put your little face in. Come in, Priscilla. Let's say hi. There were other people here. I wasn't talking to myself. There's Priscilla. Hey, hi, Priscilla. Hi. Okay, okay. Bye-bye.